Out of all the Nintendo series represented in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, none receives the amount of criticism as the Fire Emblem series, constantly being scrutinized for having too many characters representing it in the game. The series definitely takes a lot of backlash from Smash Bros. Fans online for it polluting the roster with its large amount of characters. In the character roster of Smash Ultimate, 7 of them are from the Fire Emblem series, 5 original ones, and 2 Echo Fighters. And for many, that seems like too many. So in this video, I really wanted to talk about this. I wanted to give my opinion on both sides of the spectrum, some reasons why there are too many Fire Emblem characters in Smash, and some reasons for why not. I'm Siiroth, and without further ado, let's get started. To begin, I think it's best to start before the roster of Smash Ultimate. Let's go back to the first time that Fire Emblem characters were implemented as playable ones in the roster. This being the roster of Super Smash Bros. Melee. Out of the 25 characters included in the roster of Super Smash Bros. Melee, 2 of them came from the Fire Emblem series, both Marth and Roy. So with these characters being included in Melee, and Marth being a high tier one used in the game, obviously not included in those Fox only matchups, but you see where I'm getting at here, it did provide a little bit of spotlight on the Fire Emblem series. But as we get into the sales of the Fire Emblem games, it did not create a large boost for it as it did when Smash 4 rolled around. Ike was introduced to the Fire Emblem ensemble for Smash Bros. Brawl, promoting his game that was out around the time of that. But for Smash 4, things got really interesting. In a reveal trailer where most people got more excited for Captain Falcon than the reveal of 2 characters they had probably never heard of, we got the reveals of Lucina and Robin as playable characters in the game, and to everybody's disappointment, Krom was not included as a playable character, and Lucina was. There is no debate though that Lucina and Robin are both very important characters within the story of Fire Emblem Awakening, and Fire Emblem Awakening represents something very important for the Fire Emblem series, a success that was never seen before, an unprecedented success for a Fire Emblem game in terms of sales, and I believe that a significant amount of those sales and the attention brought to it was because of these 2 characters being included into Smash Bros. 4. You see, when he added Marth and Roy into Melee, it was just a couple characters being added into the roster, but now you add 2 characters from one game into the roster of Smash 4, this being in a time where the reveals for characters are something that are built up to now, something that the internet really hopes for and wishes for and speculates about. There's a lot more spotlight being put on the reveals of new characters as opposed to Melee when the roster was just in the game. So it put a lot more attention on the game Fire Emblem Awakening for the 3DS that released a year prior to the release of Smash 4 when those characters were revealed. Fire Emblem Awakening was the first Fire Emblem game to crack over 2 million units sold according to the video game sales wiki. And then when Roy was brought back for Smash Bros. 4 and Krom was implemented as another Fire Emblem character into the roster, making us have 6 Fire Emblem characters in Smash Bros. 4, that's really when the conversation started to pick up about, okay, there's way too many Fire Emblem characters in this game now. But with Krom being included in the roster and the much hyped up Fire Emblem Fates after the Fire Emblem series was given that push with Robin and Lucina being put in as playable characters, Fates sold incredibly well as well. It sold better than Fire Emblem Awakening, with there being 2.85 million units sold according to the video game sales wiki, and this is partially due to some people double dipping and buying both versions, so you never know, if there was just one version, maybe it wouldn't have gotten more sales than Awakening, but it still did very good. I believe this is also due in part to Krom being implemented in the roster, and more spotlight being put around Fates closer to its release. So why did I just go over every single Fire Emblem character implemented into Smash Bros. Before Smash Bros. Ultimate? Well, that was to give context to what these characters did for the series. I believe without these characters being included in Super Smash Bros., not enough eyes would be put on the Fire Emblem series, and it would have been dead before we even could talk about it as one of Nintendo's bigger series now. Awakening was considered the last chance for the Fire Emblem series, a game that if it did not succeed, would mean the end of Fire Emblem as a whole. And Smash Bros. Helped reignite the flame for the Fire Emblem series, helping boost the sales of a game that introduced so many to this amazing RPG series. But by the end of the DLC for Smash Bros. 4, we had more Fire Emblem characters than Legend of Zelda characters in the game. Is that right? Should Fire Emblem have more spots in the roster highlighting Nintendo's icons than a series which has been around longer and has a much larger fan base than the Fire Emblem series? I think it really bugs some people that you have Fire Emblem taking up more spots in the roster than it. Some people are more understanding to the fact that Mario has more characters in it compared to any other series because Mario is Nintendo's biggest series, but Fire Emblem is not. So what justifies having all these characters in the game? Well, Super Smash Bros. To me is not just about highlighting icons from Nintendo and making it a game where all of Nintendo's biggest icons clash. It's also a game about creating new ones, putting more spotlight on some characters from games which you may not have played before, but you may definitely enjoy. Sakurai put spotlight on the Kid Icarus series because he was reviving it, and obviously he would want as much spotlight on it as possible, and it definitely did. Much more eyes were put on the release of Kid Icarus Uprising for the fact that there were 3 Kid Icarus characters included in Smash Bros. 4. Just look at the Xenoblade series, so many more eyes were put on it through the inclusion of Shulk. I could go on and on with more examples, but I'm sure you get the point. Smash Bros. Puts eyes on the characters in the roster. But some of you may have noticed that I have excluded one character so far in this video talking about this topic, and that's Krom. Krom, who was implemented into Smash Ultimate as an Echo Fighter for Roy. Many could understand the inclusions of all the characters up until this point. Roy was brought back in because he was in the roster initially and represents an older game from the series, and many people just want no cuts made to the roster and everybody to be brought back. It's one of the main promotional tools behind Smash Ultimate. Everyone is here. Nobody really wants characters to be missing from the roster. And all of the characters from the new 3DS era Fire Emblem games make sense to be included because they promote their newer titles and may introduce new people to the Fire Emblem series, and that definitely makes Nintendo a lot of money and will probably make a lot of people happy because they'll probably enjoy some of these amazing games. But Krom was mainly put in my opinion, in response to the backlash of him being only included in the final smash of Robin in Super Smash Bros. 4. Krom does not promote a new game, because 5 years ago Fire Emblem Awakening released, and I think Nintendo is much more focused on the future than selling an older 3DS game. Nintendo would probably want you to direct most of your attention to the upcoming Three Houses that is coming out next year, and not a game that is 5 years old. This is the first time that this has happened with the Fire Emblem series in Smash, an older character being introduced as a new one. Krom is an Echo character, as I mentioned, and this is probably one of the reasons why it was implemented as a form of fan service, I suppose. It definitely makes a lot of Fire Emblem fans happy that Krom is being included as a playable character, but for non-Fire Emblem fans, this further contributes to the idea that there are far too many Fire Emblem characters in Smash Bros. Summing up the arguments on both sides, you have the argument that Fire Emblem is not as big of a series as some of the other ones, and therefore it should not have more characters than them in Smash, and the other side of the argument being it helps revive a series and helps promote it even more, and big series is something that's very good for Nintendo. The more icons that Nintendo can naturally develop through a Super Smash Bros. Game, I think the better off that they'll be. We'll continue this discussion after a potential Three Houses representative is revealed as one of the DLC characters for Smash Ultimate. You know it's gotta happen with all this controversy going around about the Fire Emblem characters. We gotta have more in the game, right? So I pose a couple of questions to you at the end of this video. What do you think about this topic? Where do you lie on the debate? Do you lie somewhere in the middle like I do? What character from Three Houses would you want to see, if any, in Smash Ultimate when the DLC rolls around? I personally root for Edelgard. And the final question being, do you want to see more videos like this in the future? Well, I have an answer for you for that one. If you do, click the subscribe button and the notification bell on the screen right now so that you'll get notified when my new videos go live. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.